Yeah, so hi everyone. As Prashant already mentioned, my name is Tane and I currently work as freelance game audio designer. But everything I've learned, I've self-learned. I've been discovering a lot about Unity and Wise this year. So I wanted to share some basics of how you can get started with implementation side of things inside Unity. Now, this workshop is mostly focused on Unity, as I wanted to introduce you to some concepts that are intimidating for us sound designers, basically, because we don't like the idea of working with game engines or coding languages. We just want to sit in our DAW and work on music, sound effects. That's it, right? But if you work in game industry, that's not where our job ends, right? We are also responsible to sort of look over the implementation of how the sound is actually going to interact in the game as well. The idea of this particular workshop is that we will be giving you this GitHub repository. Now, for people who have never worked with a GitHub repo before, that's completely fine. I'll explain what this contains and how you can use it. So basically, all you have to do is go to code and download a zip file. Inside this GitHub repository, you will find a Wwise Project folder and a README file. This README file here contains all the necessary things that you will need in order to get started. So things like the Unity project link from the assets, so the Wwise project folder, which is in the repo itself, and the versions that you will need for both of these softwares. Um, so I actually wanted to know how many of you guys have explored Wise already. Like how much are you guys familiar with at least the basic interface or the basic concepts that go behind Wise audio systems? Hmm. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's more than enough actually. So now that we know Vice, I'll be exploring the Vice project also. Don't worry about that. We'll see how some of the things are set up inside Vice and how we are using them in Unity. So you don't have to worry about that. But for this particular project, we are using Vice 2023.1.6, and Unity version can be anything that is 2018 and higher. So, if you guys have never worked with Unity before, you can install it from Unity's website and download this thing called as Unity Hub, where inside the installs you can install different editor versions. So anything that is higher than 2018 will work with this project. Now, this project is a free asset on the Unity assets. So, we have not created this project. All the credits go to the developer, and all you have to do to get this project is sign into your Unity account, and over here it will say add to my assets. Just click on that, and now it will give you an option to open it in Unity. Now by default it asks you to open an empty project inside Unity, which you can also do from Unity Hub. That is in here you can create a new empty project, and since we are working with a 2D project, we need to select a 2D template that Unity Hub offers by default. Uh, Let it just load up here. So this 2D built-in render pipeline, this gives us a basic empty project that we can use for our 2D project. So you guys can just name it whatever you want, save it on a location. Okay, for the location as well. I just want to highlight quickly. Now, once you download the repo and the Unity project, it does not matter where on your system these two folders are located. Technically, the integration will handle and will work even if they are both at different places. But it's good practice to have them under a same root folder, because in game development what happens is we are often working with a team, and we might need to share resources with other members of the team, so that they can also look into it and work together with us, and it becomes easily shareable if they are under the same root folder at least. In my case, I don't have them under the same root folder for now. My Unity project is located on my external SSD, while my Wise project or the repo is located on my system. So once we have that set up, let's see what the project will look like once we are inside Unity. Okay, once you have created an empty project in the Unity editor, to import the project that you just downloaded from the assets store, all you have to do is go to the package manager from this window. uh, Under this drop down, just select my assets, and now it will show you all the assets that you have added on the Unity assets store. So this Metadata controller is our project. Just download and import it in your empty project. Once it's successfully imported, this is what it will look like. Now this is the default layout of the Unity, where you will see there are four main panels. These four are respectively the hierarchy, the project window, the scene view, and the inspector. So let's start at the project window. This is basically your project. This window contains all your project assets. So everything that is in your project, such as animations, your 2D characters, your artworks, your backgrounds, textures, audio assets, everything will be inside this project window folder. Project window. um, Also, when you download the project, when once you finish importing the project from the package manager, you'll have to go to the scenes folder inside this project and open up the demo scene. That's when you will be able to see uh, this map displayed on your scene view. Scene view is responsible to basically show you what's going on inside your game. This is the level, this is the map of your game. Now this is dependent on your hierarchy. Hierarchy is basically a way to uh, manage everything that is inside your scene. Again, the scene, the demo scene, is your level inside the Unity, and each scene contains multiple game objects. Everything inside a scene is called a game object. So all of these are called game objects. What is a game object? Let's see that as well. So a game object is basically a collection of things that you will need in order to physically define that object in the scene. So this game object, let's say the first one, LI AI simple. This game object has multiple components. So all of these things in the inspector, these are all components for this game object. Now all of these components have different functionality that we can use to sort of control the character or the object in the world, in the scene. And all of these components can be configured in different ways. So we can write custom scripts to manage these. Unity offers all of these components, such as colliders or rigid bodies, that are inbuilt in Unity, that you can just add it and start working with it. So these are predefined components, but we can create our own, such as you can see there is a script here called ally script. This was custom script defined in the game, and we can change properties to sort of change the configuration of this object. So once you have the project successfully imported, there is one particular thing that you need to do, because this project comes with some inbuilt audio. Like there is already some audio that we don't want. We are going to work with our own audio. Audio is implemented inside Unity from its native audio system. So in the main camera, there's an object in the scene, demo scene, called main camera. You will find there's an audio listener. To disable the audio that is already in the project, you can simply remove this component from the main camera, and now you won't be able to hear any audio that is already implemented in this project. We are not going to work with that audio either ways, so it's fine if you don't have this audio listener. So in a game engine, there are uh, there is a component called an audio listener. You'll find this in most game engines. Uh, I'm not sure about all of them, but for most engines, it works in the similar fashion where you have an audio listener which is responsible to receive any audio that is being played in the game. This audio listener is responsible for whatever we are going to hear in the game. So let's say if I'm playing any footsteps on the character, this audio listener is responsible to pick up that and then output it to the game to us through our system. Cool. So we are going to add a custom audio listener that is offered by Audio Kinetic later when we do the integration. But this audio listener we don't need, so we can remove it. Similarly, in the game objects, you will find there are something called as audio sources. This is Unity inbuilt audio source. This is responsible to play and manage audio, but we are not concerned with this because we are going to add our own audio. But since we have disabled the audio listener here, so we can just ignore these for now. But in a real project, you would not want any native Unity audio components inside it if you are working with Wise. Does that make sense so far? Okay, okay, awesome. Okay, so since we have discovered most of this interface of Unity, okay, now how do you actually play the game? So once you have the project imported, you have all these things set up. You can see in the scene view, above your scene view, there's a play button. Let's just try playing the game itself. Now you see it has switched to this game tab beside the scene view. So we can go to the game tab and play the game, control the character and do everything that the game has set up already. To stop playing it, we can just simply click on the play again. Oh, my bad. I double clicked it. Yeah, so we can just stop playing. To stop playing it, we can just click it again. We have a pause option. And one thing to keep in mind while working in Unity is that once we are in the play mode, any changes that I make in these objects, say there's a decrease factor here. If I just change this to something higher value, and if I go out of the play mode, that value is going to reset to its original value. So play mode prevents any changes that we have made to any object to stay permanent basically. It does not stay permanent, it will revert back to whatever value it had before we started the play mode. So this is important while working with Unity. Any changes we make, we have to get out of the play mode and then make the changes, save it, and then start the play mode again. So that's just the workflow of Unity. Okay, let's talk about the scene view as well. How do you navigate through this? If you see on top of the scene view, we have some tools that will help us basically navigate through the map. So this hand tool, I can just click and drag anywhere, and I can see the entire map. On my mouse, I can scroll back to zoom out. I can drag. If I select an object, say my main character, our main character in this project is called the character. This draw character object has everything that our player will need in order to do all the actions. All the uh, inputs are already here. So say if I select this move tool, I can move the player in x-axis or y-axis or freely anywhere on the map. So all of these tools such as rotate, scale, these will help us basically configure the player the objects characteristics in the map. So we can configure position, the size, the scale, rotation, everything. We are not going to work with these a lot because we are concerned mostly with inspector, where we will add our own custom scripts and maybe use AK components that Audio Kinetic provides with the integration. So we'll only mostly need to work with the hand tool, or maybe, yeah, mostly with the hand tool, because we don't need to change anything in the game itself. We just need to add audio. That's the most we'll do in this project. We're not going to be messing around anything with the game mechanics or all, at all. Cool. So if we are done with the Unity interface, now this was a empty project that I just imported. This project itself we are not going to use for integration. I have a copy of this project where I've already made certain integrations that we are going to see after we see how the integration is done through the Wise launcher. So I'm going to close this project for now. Don't save. Cool. So once you import the project, you'll have to close the project anyways to do the integration. If you see in your Audio Kinetic launcher, there is a tab for Unity, and this tab will basically show you all the projects that are available on your system. It will automatically show these. If it does not show your project here, you can just click on open another and navigate on your system where that project is located. So our project is called Metroidvania Controller. I'll click on integrate Wise in the project, and it's important to select the Wise SDK that is installed on your system. Now for this particular project, again we are using Wise 2023.1.6. So I'm going to select that. This Wise version is already installed on my system, so you will have to install this Wise and SDK to work with Unity. uh, and under packages we can select both of these integrations. For this project platforms, we are using Mac OS and Windows, so I've selected so these two will automatically be selected anyways. So these two we are working with Mac OS and platforms. If you want, you can add more platforms such as web or Android, but we are not doing that for this workshop. We only have two platforms. Next, we have to select the Wise SDK that is installed on your system. This should already be selected here. Otherwise, from this drop down, it will show you all the versions that are installed on your system. So again, we are working with 2023.1.6, and then this is an important thing where you have to tell it where our Wise project is located. So let's do that as well. I'm going to browse and select my Wise project. This is the from the repo. I'm going to the Wise project folder, and this file GI September 2024 Wise Unity Wise project dot WPROJ. This is a Wise project for this workshop, and I'll open it. Cool. Under Unity installation, we have to select our Unity editor path. So whichever editor you are working with, just point it to that Unity executable application. If you're on Windows, this will be unity.exe. If you're on Mac, it's unity.app. And finally, under integration options, you'll see we have two more options that says create Wise global object and add AK audio listener to the main camera. Now if you remember, we just deleted or removed the audio listener component from the main camera of the main camera object in the game because we did not want the Unity's default audio listener. We need this AK audio listener that is provided by Wise. So we're going to add that, and we're going to create the Wise global. So let's start the integration. Okay, this will take like up to 5 to 6 minutes. Let's wait for that. Now this integration is going to do most of the heavy lifting for us. It will install the Wise Unity plugin in our Unity project, as well as it will make some configurations in the paths for the sound banks. That is what we have to look at next, because sound bank paths is something very important that we need to understand. in order to work with both of these tools together. So once this is finished, we'll look into that. Okay, while this is almost done, let's look at the Wise project itself first. So we have the Wise project here. I'll just quickly scroll through what we have in the Wise project. So I've divided these things, these all the SFX into four sections. That is ambience, common SFX, enemies, and players. So most of these are going to be your actions for the characters, such as your sword slash, jumping, landing, dashing, things like that. Now most of these are random containers like the sword slash. So all of these I've created variations for these, and they're all set in the random container, and we are creating the events from these random containers. So we have jump, land, things like footsteps. We are going to be looking at player footsteps today. Inside the footsteps I have two types of footsteps. So this is a switch container inside which I have two other random containers for grass footsteps and gravel footsteps. uh, we are going to look into switch later in the workshop, because that's a whole different concept that I need to explain. We might not be able to cover this today, but we will at least try and implement the gravel footsteps. That is going to be the default footsteps for our player. So we have the player FS event. I'll show you the events as well. So I have the events such as player FS. All these events, mostly they are going to be animation events. So we will look into that. But there are other ways these events can be implemented. So yeah, we'll see that as well. So okay, the integration is completed successfully. Once we are done this, how do we know if we successfully complete the integration? So now that you look at your Unity project, your main folder, there are some extra files that you will notice. We have this Wwise and Unity, these two zip files. We are not really concerned with these, but under your assets folder, now we have a few extra files. You will see. Uh, Before the integration, we did not have the streaming assets. I should have showed that, my bad. But before the integration, we did not have the streaming assets and the Wwise folder here. This Wwise folder under your assets folder is the main integration that Wwise does. We are not going to be touching this folder at all. It has all the data that Unity needs in order to communicate with Wwise. But this streaming assets folder is where Unity will reference for its sound banks. So this is where Unity stores its sound banks when it's building the project under streaming assets, audio generated sound banks. So now, for as I said, we'll look into sound banks. The paths for sound banks is something we need to make sure is configured properly every time we make a change in, let's say, the project's location on our system. So if I move the folders, or if I change the name of the folder, these sound bank paths will get messed up, and we need to know exactly how these work in order to troubleshoot that at very start of the project. So again, Unity will reference this folder for its sound banks, while Wwise folder, our Wwise project, has another folder called generated sound banks. This folder is where Wwise will generate its sound banks. Now let me explain in a little more detail. Let's go over to our Wwise project. If I switch to my sound bank layout, and under project settings, we have the sound bank settings, and now it gives us two options. We have the root output path as well as sound banks paths. This root output path is supposed to be the folder that Unity will reference for its sound banks. So we have that under streaming assets, in the Unity project folder, streaming assets, audio and generated sound banks. While Wwise is actually generating its sound banks inside the Wwise folders generated sound banks. Does that make sense to you guys, or do I need to explain that again? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so why is Unity doing this in the first place? Why are we not just generating it in the sound banks? So now what happens is when you're working with a team, right? These sound banks are managed by us as sound designers because we constantly update the Wwise project and we constantly update the sound banks. If we just generate it in the Unity sound banks folder, so there are multiple factors that go into it, like somebody might not be able to like somebody would not be working with the sound banks. They'll have to also install that on their system when they're working with the project, and that basically increases the project size overall while working with a team. We don't really want that because we are the ones responsible. We are the only ones who are responsible to use the sound banks. So we generate it in the Wwise folder while we give a reference in the Unity's audio generated sound banks folder to these two sound banks that we are going to generate. So actually, let's do that now. We have not generated our sound banks yet. Once you have the project, once you have the integration successful, that's when we actually generate the sound banks. This is completed. And now if you check in your Unity folder, Unity project assets, streaming assets, now we have the generated sound banks. And now there are these two files, project info XML and Wwise ID. These are basically a reference to the sound banks where the Wwise has actually generated the sound banks. Um, Also, while generating the sound banks, make sure you have these two tick marked. So we need the header file, we need the XML file. Um, I'm not very sure about the bank content txt files, but these two files, the header file and the XML file, are important, and we will need those in order to work with Unity. Okay, we have generated sound banks, we have integrated the Unity with Wwise successfully. Now let's actually open the Unity project. Okay, so Unity in inbuilt audio engine is very limited in its functionalities. So what you can do with it by default, you'll notice it very quickly that it's very limited, and you will have to basically write a lot of scripts for a lot of the things that we need to do. So even for a basic thing, like let's say if we want to set random footsteps, we want to have multiple random footsteps playing while the player walks. So even to set that, you will have to write a line of code and sort of make your own audio manager and drag and drop all the audio files into it. That is also time consuming, and that is I find is very inefficient for larger projects. So if it's a very small project, say if you have a team of 1 and 2 devs who are working on a very small project, in that case Unity's inbuilt audio engine is very useful. You can just uh, plug and play all the audio that you need on all of your characters or animations. But if you want to have more control, so things like all of these randomizations, say if I want RTPCs, I want the ambience to be interactive, I want the music to be interactive, all of those things in Unity it will take time and a developer's help for you to manage that. While in Wwise we can easily configure those by ourselves. We can set all of these, and all we have to do in Unity is make the game call for these events, and these will play as we have as we have set it up in Wwise. So that makes everyone's work very easier. Okay, so now the first time you open your Unity project after the integration, you have to check a few things to make sure the Unity also has the resources, has the correct information that it needs to communicate with Wwise. So if you go to your project settings window, if you don't see this window, you can go to edit and project settings. You will see there are two new options here, called the Wwise editor and Wwise initialization. We need to go to the Wwise editor and make sure it has the proper Wwise project path. This is what it will use to display all this Wwise information. So the integration should already set this up for you. If for some reason it's not properly configured, or if you cannot see these things, if you cannot see your Wwise speaker or these things inside your Wwise speaker, these folders, you might need to just reconfigure this. Then you have to set your Wwise application path and your uh, generated soundbanks path. These are also by default configured by the integration, so mostly in most cases you won't need to change these. Again, this soundbanks path that Unity is referring to, this is located in the Unity projects asset folder. So if I just show you, yeah, so this generated soundbanks is located in your audio streaming assets inside your Unity projects assets folder. So we are going to select that, and yes, we have successfully integrated Wwise with Unity. Now if you see, we have a few new options such as the Wwise speaker. If this window does not automatically show up in your project, what you can do is go to window and you will see there's an option for Wwise speaker. That will open up this window. It might open up as a pop-up. You can just drag and drop it into anywhere you want on the screen. So I can just drag this tab. Sorry, I can just drag this tab. I can set it anywhere I want. I can snap it to certain places. I like to keep it beside my project window because it's easier to manage assets here. So all your project assets are contained in this window. It's separate from the project window. It's not going to be inside your project window. It's a separate window that integration provides us with to easily work with the objects that we have in the Wwise project. So let's say I have these events. I have all my events. I have my music events. I have sound banks, switches. So everything that I've already set in my Wwise project is going to show up in this Wwise speaker window. Let me full screen this actually. Yeah. So now, before we start implementing sounds, now there's other quick things that we need to make sure are there in our project. So let's see. So in our main camera, if you remember, while making the integration, we selected to add the AK audio listener to our main camera. Now this has been already added, and this is now our default listener. I think there was another listener or script that got deleted while the integration was made, but we don't need to be worried about that for now because we have removed the Unity's inbuilt audio listener, and we have added the AK audio listener. If for some reason you do not have this, all you have to do is go to add components, say AK audio listener, and add this component. Now I've already added, so it won't let me add another. Your entire scene only needs one audio listener, and we generally set the audio listener on our main camera because this main camera is responsible to show us what's going on in the screen. So let me actually show you what this looks like. So this is our entire map, but the main camera only shows you this section of the screen. So it's a good idea to place your audio listener, which is this one. It only shows you it only captures audio that is going on in this screen. So with this we can do a lot more things, such as you can maybe add attenuations in your Wwise project to calculate the distance, so anything that moves out of the frame will be inaudible. Everything that is a little more further off in the screen will sound like it's coming from right or left side. So all of these things can be done if you have the audio listener on your camera. Now this is a 2D game, so our camera is just going to move with the player. But let's say in 3D games, where we need a little more control to how the camera reacts, to how the camera actually flows, or how the audio listener flows, we'll need to make more such configurations to we might need to do write some scripts to sort of make sure the audio listener is working exactly as we intend it to work. So that's where maybe you might need to ask a game developer, okay, this is what you have in mind, this is what your audio listener should be like. So they'll mostly help you out with that. But for our purpose, it's a 2D game. It's the camera is just following the player, and we just need to set it. Just need to set this audio listener. Another thing, the final thing that we need to look at. Okay. Yeah, so we also selected the option to add the Wise global object. Now it's this Wise global object is to just make sure the Wise initialization is done properly in the project. So everything that Unity will need in order to communicate with Wise is done by the script. This is added by default. We don't need to add this. But now, in order to actually work with all these events, we need to make sure we have the sound bank loaded in the scene as well. Unity will handle sound banks based on its different scenes. So each scene needs to have a sound bank. So let's add that as well. So we go to add components and search for AK bank. Now all these AK scripts are basically audio, AK short for audio kinetic, that are provided with the integration. You won't see these scripts by default in your Unity project. This is something only comes up that after you have successfully done the integration, and these scripts are provided by default with the integration. So we need to basically set the sound bank. Now a lot of these scripts, these are basically called AK components. I like to call them AK components. I'm not sure what is called by default. So these AK components will have some controls to do certain things with the objects that you have in your Wise project. So in this case, we have the AK bank script. What we need is for this script to load a sound bank. So let's select that in our sound bank settings. Sorry, in our sound banks drop down, we have the main sound bank. We'll go to select that, and I want this to load on awake and not on start. What this means is Unity will load this sound bank, the main sound bank, when it's booting up the game, and all these other options we are also going to look into that. But start is basically when we actually see the first screen of the game that we can interact with. That's the start. While awake is just when the Unity is booting up the game. That's when this sound bank will be loaded. We want to do this because we might need certain sounds at the start of the game that won't load unless the sound bank has been loaded successfully. So we do that on awake. Now let's actually post an event. Let's see how to post an actual event with these AK components. So I'm going to go to my main camera and I'm going to add AK event. Let's try posting an ambience event. Currently there is no ambience playing in the game. I'll do a trigger on start and call the event called ambience. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. You just loaded the AK event script on your main camera, and I just told it to trigger this ambience event on start, and it should do the trick. Let's try it. Okay, I can already hear the ambience. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it so far, but I can hear the ambience very clearly. Okay, awesome, awesome. So we have successfully posted the ambience. Now I had some other events already posted here. We will look into that, but okay. So we don't have any footsteps yet. Let's try again. We should not have any footsteps yet because I deleted those. So we can do that together in the workshop. Yeah, we don't have any footsteps playing right now, but we have successfully posted an ambience. Now this AK event, um, for ambience, it's a 2D event. Like it does not follow the positioning of where the object is. So we can basically put this AK event for the ambience for any 2D uh, events anywhere in our scene. So it does not matter if I put this on main camera or on my player or even the Wise global object or any of these game objects. But just to keep things clean and organized, I posted this on my main camera. So ambience, I usually like to post them on my main camera because that's where the audio listener is, and that's just going to, like, the camera is just going to always follow the player itself. So that is done. We have successfully posted a 2D event. Now let's see if I have to post an event on my player, or if I want to post, let's say we have to post the footsteps event. How do we do that? Now if you go to your player object, this is where things get interesting. Now there is something called as animation events in the uh, in that you will find in most game engines. So what this does is, uh, there is an animation window that you can bring up. All you have to do is go to window, animation, and animation window. This will bring up this window. So once you select your game object, that is your main player, all the animations that are associated with that game object will be displayed here in this drop down. So I want my run animation, and I can play it to see what it looks like in the scene, like when the game will run. Now remember, we are in the scene view, we are just previewing these things, we are not actually playing the game yet. So I can see my player has this running animation, and I can stop this. I can scroll through each frame to see where these footsteps are landing on the ground. And that is when we need to actually play the footsteps. We need to tell Unity, okay, this exact frame on this particular animation is where my footsteps event should be played. This is what we need to tell Unity. How do we do that? Now this is something we need to write by ourselves because none of the AK components have such a functionality where you can just post an event like this and tell Unity, okay, I want this on this particular frame. So how do we do that? Now for writing scripts, we I don't think we have much time left for today. I'll We will dive deeper into writing scripts for Unity and Wise tomorrow, but I'll still show you how this entire workflow works. So basically, on this frame where the player's foot is hitting the ground, I've added this animation event. This animation event is responsible to call a function that we create in the custom script that we're going to write. Now let's at least look at how this looks like. So I've added this animation events script. My bad. Yeah, so let it open as well. This animation event script will contain the code that is going to trigger the footsteps event. So you see there's an option for footsteps and player FS. We'll be discovering all of these lines of codes together. You don't have to worry about why these are here, what these does. I'll explain everything. But basically, this is our function that I have commented out for now. But actually, let's write a new function to show you how it's done. So as I said, the animation event, this little node here, is responsible to post a function on our animation. So this animation is linked to this character. So we make a custom script on this character, and then we write a function. So I'll explain all of these tomorrow. What is a function, how these codes work in C sharp, or how Unity, like how we can manage all of these things. But I'm just going to create a footsteps function, and we are going to post our footsteps function that is called player fs on this game object. Now this name, we are writing the name of the event that we have created in the Wwise events. So in the Wwise we have this event called player fs. This should be the exact way it's named in our script as well. This is the event it's going to call from Wwise and post it when this function is called. So now all we have to do is call this function on our animation event. So let's go back to this animation event. Okay, when you save the script, when you write a custom script and save the script, Unity will recompile it and import it again if it needs to. Okay, so on our animation event, we can, from this drop down we can select the function that we just created. So in our animation event script methods, we just created this footsteps function, and now I'll do the same for this second footstep as well, footsteps function. And now Unity will post this animation event every time the foot is hitting the ground, and this animation event will call this function which is responsible to trigger the actual Wwise event, and we did that through C sharp scripting. Let's play and see if this works. Okay, I can hear the footsteps for the enemies. Okay, awesome. We can hear the footsteps clearly. We did not have to do any randomization or anything. We just posted the footsteps event, and then it's Wwise event responsibility to do everything that we have set it up to do. So it will post the event, it will do all the randomizations that we have set up in the random container. So it will so now for current footsteps sound, it's posting the gravel sound, because on my switch container, wait, let me switch to designer layout. So on my switch container, I've told Wise that gravel should be my default state. We have not defined any switches or state yet, so by default it's posting the gravel footsteps. But later in the workshop we will also discover how you can use this switch container to switch to something like grass or any other footsteps that you want on different platforms or surfaces that you have in your game. But this is the basics of how you can post an animation event. I think this is a good place to stop for today. Tomorrow we'll look more into how you can use these animation events, how you can write those scripts. We'll dive deeper into some coding basics of how C sharp works with Unity, and then we can post other events, and you'll see how to uh, basically post some more advanced methods of posting events as well. So yeah. Yeah, so you can access the GitHub repo that we are working with right now. So if you see this repo that we have talked about, you can access this from here. It's a open source repo. So you'll get the Wise project from this repo, and you can download the Unity project from this link. So I would encourage everyone to try it out if they want to, if they can, because this is something you won't learn if you're only watching these on through tutorials or workshops. This is something that comes with actually performing these steps, because when you perform these steps, you are going to run into problems. That's where the technical side of things actually make you a better technical sound designer, or make you better working with these tools. Because once you start understanding, okay, why this problem is occurring, then you know how to solve it for any future projects that come up. So that is about the repo. But if we have a good number of attendance for all these four workshops, because we are going to cover a lot of things in like tomorrow and the next week's sessions as well. We can also do an audio game jam, not a game jam but like an audio jam, this month, sorry, next month in October. So that is something we are planning. If you guys would be interested in that, that would be really awesome. um, I think that's pretty much it for today's session.